Once upon a time, in the peaceful village of Nomesa, nestled between golden hills and whispering rivers, there lived a young girl named Lela. She was known across the land for her bright smile and gentle heart. Wherever she went, people felt at peace. Children loved her stories, elders praised her respect, and even the birds seemed to sing sweeter when she walked by. Lela was the only daughter of Chief Mosi, a man respected far and wide for his wisdom and fairness. Her mother had died when Lela was just a baby, but Chief Mosi raised her with love and care, teaching her to be strong, kind, and curious. Their home, built from stone and carved wood, stood tall in the center of Nomesa. It had broad verandas, painted walls, and tall windows that caught the sun's light and spread it through the house like warm honey. But within this beautiful home was one mystery, a room that no one was allowed to enter. Behind a heavy wooden door bound with iron bars, lay the forbidden room. Its key hung on a necklace around Chief Mosi's neck, and no one, not even Lela, had ever seen what was inside. Whenever she asked about it, her father would place a gentle hand on her head and say, "Some truths are not ready to be known, my daughter. Trust me." Though Lela respected her father's words, the door always made her wonder. She would sometimes pause as she walked past it, imagining what could be hidden behind those thick walls: treasure, ancient relics, family secrets. As years passed, her curiosity grew like the tall baobab tree outside her window. But she never dared to open the door. She loved her father, and his trust meant more than any secret. Lela had many gifts. Her hands could heal small wounds with the touch of herbs and water. Her voice calmed angry hearts, and her laughter could light up even the darkest corners of a room. The villagers called her Child of Light, believing that her presence brought good fortune to Nomesa. Each morning, she would walk through the market square, greeting everyone by name: Mama Binta the weaver, Boba Tumo the potter, Elder Kozi the storyteller. She played with the children, sang songs at the river, and helped anyone in need. But as joyful as her days were, the forbidden room remained a shadow in her mind. One day, it would call to her in a way she could no longer ignore. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, a strange wind blew into Nomesa. The sky darkened with heavy clouds, and the air grew thick. Animals grew restless, and even the elders looked to the sky with worry. Chief Mosi stood by the entrance of their home, his eyes narrowed. "A storm is coming," he said quietly. "One unlike any we have seen." That night, lightning cracked through the heavens and rain poured like never before. Thunder shook the earth, and the village huddled indoors, praying for safety. Inside her home, Lela sat beside her father, watching the flames dance in the hearth. As the wind howled outside, she thought she heard something else, a whisper. A soft, almost musical sound, coming from the direction of the forbidden room. She turned to her father. "Did you hear that?" Chief Mosi's face grew serious. He stood up, walked to the door of the forbidden room, and pressed his hand against it. "Stay here, Lela," he said, his voice low. "This room must remain closed." She watched as he placed his forehead against the wood, closed his eyes, and whispered a prayer. For a moment, the storm outside seemed to pause, as if listening. When he returned, his eyes looked tired, older than before. "Promise me," he said, "that you will never open that door. Even if I am gone." Lela nodded, though inside her heart, the seeds of doubt were beginning to sprout. A few days later, Chief Mosi prepared for a journey to a distant village to settle a land dispute. He kissed Lela's forehead and handed her a small calf charm. "This will keep you safe," he said. "I will return soon." As he walked away, his key to the forbidden room still hanging around his neck, Lela felt a strange weight settle on her shoulders. The house felt different. Quieter. The forbidden room seemed louder, even without a sound. Days passed. Then a week. There was no word from Chief Mosi. The villagers began to whisper. Why hasn't the chief returned? Has something happened on the road? Lela tried to stay strong, but her heart grew heavy. One evening, as the sun set in blood-red light, Lela walked past the forbidden room and again heard the whispering. This time, clearer, closer. She placed her hand on the door. It felt warm. Alive. Days turned into weeks, and Chief Mosi did not return. The village of Nomesa grew restless. Every morning, Lela stood at the village entrance, watching the dusty road, hoping to see her father's tall figure with his walking stick and gentle smile. But only the wind came, carrying dust and whispers. Villagers began to talk in hushed voices. Has something happened to the chief? Why hasn't Lele gone after him? That house of hers, it holds secrets. Lela tried to stay strong, remembering her father's words. But inside, her heart was full of worry and fear. She slept little, ate less, and each night the forbidden room whispered louder. With her father gone, the house felt huge and empty. The chores were many, and Lela was alone. One morning, while at the village well, she met two siblings, Nia and her younger brother Temba. They were well known in Nomesa for their honesty and hard work. Nia was quick with a laugh and always ready to help others. Temba was quiet, watchful, and skilled with his hands. Lela, let us help you, Nia offered kindly. Your house should not feel so empty. Grateful, Lela agreed. That afternoon, Nia and Temba moved into the servants' quarters. The house, once silent, now echoed with footsteps, laughter, and life again. Nia swept the floors, sang songs while cooking, and tended the garden. Temba fixed broken chairs, oiled squeaky doors, and helped in the market. Lela smiled again, even if just a little, but as days passed, strange things began to happen. Animals refused to enter the house. Chickens clucked wildly at the gates. The family dog, Keto, whimpered and ran away. At night, the wind carried unsettling whispers. Doors creaked open without touch, and shadows moved where no one walked. In the village, people muttered. That house is cursed. Chief Mosi is gone, and now darkness grows there. Lela's heart sank. She heard the whispers too, but she still held on to her father's charm and his final words. Trust me. Do not open the door. One evening, after the lanterns were lit and the house grew quiet, Nia approached Lela. Sister, Nia said gently, this house is full of shadows. There is something hidden. Perhaps if we clean that room, it will stop. Lela's eyes widened. The forbidden room. No. My father forbade it. We must not go inside. Temba joined them, his voice steady. We mean no disrespect, Lela. But strange things are happening. Maybe inside that room is the answer. Lela shook her head. Her hands trembled, but she held firm. No. I gave my word. Nia nodded, but the seed was planted. That night, Lela dreamt of the forbidden door. In her dream, it stood wide open, and a glowing light poured out. But when she stepped inside, the light turned to darkness, and she heard her father's voice calling. Lela, why? She awoke with a start, heart pounding. The next day, as Lela walked through the market, a messenger arrived from a nearby village. Chief Mosi's caravan was attacked by bandits on the road. Some men escaped, but Chief Mosi was missing, possibly taken or killed. Lela's world crumbled. She returned home in silence. That night, she sat outside the forbidden room, the key her father once wore now hanging on a hook by the door. Nia approached softly. I'm sorry, sister. But now more than ever, we must know the truth. Whatever is behind that door may help us understand what's happening. Your father is gone, and we are alone. Lela stood, hand shaking, and reached for the key. I don't want to do this, she whispered, but maybe you are right. She turned the key. The lock clicked. The door creaked open. Inside, the room was dark, silent, and cold. At the center stood a small wooden pedestal. On it lay an ancient mask, carved from dark wood, with glowing red stones for eyes. Temba stepped forward, staring at the mask. It looks powerful. Lele nodded, fear in her voice. We shouldn't touch it. Suddenly, the air grew heavy, and a deep voice echoed through the room, though no one was there. Who awakens the silence? Who breaks the promise of the bloodline? The glowing eyes of the mask flickered. Nia screamed and stumbled back. Temba reached for her, but the door slammed shut behind them. The lanterns blew out, and the room turned pitch black. Lela screamed, pounding the door. Let us out. Please. And then, silence. At dawn, the villagers found Lela's house empty. The door to the forbidden room was closed and locked. Nia and Temba were gone. Lela sat alone on the front steps, her clothes torn, eyes hollow, clutching her father's charm. When asked where the siblings were, she whispered. The room, it took them. The village grew cold with fear. Whispers turned into accusations. She used magic. She killed them. That house is cursed. The fear had taken root. Truth had no place in their hearts. For 3 days, the house of Chief Mosi stood silent. No laughter, no music, no footsteps. Only the soft creaking of the wind against wooden walls and the low hum of whispers from curious villagers who gathered near but dared not enter. Lela, once the beloved child of light, now sat alone in the grand house that had become her prison. The doors remained locked, and her eyes stayed fixed on the floor, haunted by the moment the forbidden room took her friend's dot. On the 4th morning, something strange and terrible began. A foul smell, sharp and heavy, started to drift through the village air, creeping out from Lela's home. At first, it was faint, like something rotting in a hidden corner. But as the sun rose higher, the stench grew stronger. Villagers passing by covered their noses, whispering, "What's that smell? Something's dead in there." Children were told to stay away. Even the birds refused to fly near the house. Inside, Lela sat by the fire, motionless, her heart pounding in her chest. The scent had seeped into every room. She knew its source. She feared the truth. By noon, Elder Jimo, the oldest and most respected man in the village, gathered the villagers near the central tree. "We cannot ignore this any longer," he said. "Two have vanished. A terrible stench fills the air. Lela must speak." A group of men, led by Elder Juma and the village warriors, walked to Lela's house. Knocking on the door, they waited. Lela opened it slowly, her face pale and hollow. "Where are Nia and Temba?" Elder Juma asked. "Gone," Lela whispered. "The room, it. I don't know what happened." The villagers gasped. Fear turned to anger. "She killed them. She's practicing dark magic. She opened that cursed room." Lela tried to speak, but her words were drowned by shouts and cries. She begged them to listen, to let her explain, but fear blinds the ears of those who are afraid. Elder Juma raised his hand, calling for silence. "Lela," he said, "for your sake and the peace of our village, we give you 3 days. Bring proof of your innocence. Show us that you did not harm Nia and Temba. If you cannot, we will act as the old ways demand." Lela's knees grew weak, but she nodded. 3 days, she whispered. That night, she sat alone in her house, staring at the locked forbidden room. Her father's key hung around her neck now, but she dared not go inside again. "What did I do?" she murmured. "Father, I need you." But Chief Mosi was still missing, and the weight of the village's judgment pressed down on her like heavy stones. The next day, Lela visited the market, trying to speak to those who once called her friend. But no one met her eyes. Mothers clutched their children close. Shopkeepers turned away. Even Mama Binta, who had braided Lela's hair when she was a child, shook her head. "I warned you, child. That room was cursed." That evening, she returned home in despair. The smell was worse. It filled her nose, her lungs, her dreams. She could not eat. She could not sleep. In the middle of the night, Lela lit a lantern and walked to the forbidden door. Her hand trembled on the key. She unlocked it slowly and stepped inside. The room was silent. The mask still lay on the pedestal, its red eyes dark. No whispers, no lights, no voice. But in the corner, Lela saw something she hadn't noticed before, a small scroll, rolled and tied with a piece of leather. She picked it up and opened it. The words were faded but clear. "This mask judges the hearts of those who enter. Pure hearts shall see truth. Dark hearts shall face silence. Only one bloodline can command its power." Lela's breath caught. Is that what happened? Did the mask judge Nia and Temba? She searched the room, hoping for more answers, but found nothing. No sign of her friends, only silence. As she left, the door slammed shut behind her, and she dropped the scroll in fear. The stench hit her again, stronger than ever. The third day dawned. Outside her home, the village gathered, waiting. Torches were lit. The warriors sharpened their blades. The people of Nomesa had made up their minds. Inside, Lela stood with the scroll in her hand, but her heart was heavy. No one will believe this, she thought. They don't want truth. They want blame. She looked at her father's charm, clutched it to her chest, and whispered, "I did nothing wrong, please, help me." But help did not come. As the drum sounded, calling her to the village square, Lela took a deep breath, stepped outside, and walked toward her fate. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the village of Nomesa. In the center of the square, a crowd had gathered, men, women, and children, their faces grim and silent. The usual laughter and music were gone, replaced by the low hum of drums of judgment. At the front stood the village elders, led by Elder Jimo, his face carved with lines of worry and anger. Beside him, the village warriors held their spears, standing tall and unyielding. All eyes turned as Lela stepped into the square, barefoot, holding a small rolled scroll in her hand, her father's charm clutched tightly in the other. Elder Juma raised his voice. "People of Nomesa, today we stand for justice. Two of our own, Nia and Temba, have vanished. A stench of death fills the air. And this girl, this daughter of Chief Mosi, stands at the center of it all." Gasps and murmurs filled the square. Lela stepped forward, her voice trembling. "I did not harm them. I swear by the earth and sky. They entered the forbidden room with me. And then, they vanished." She held up the scroll. This was inside. It says the mask judges hearts. It was not me, it was the mask. Please, read it. Elder Juma took the scroll and unrolled it, reading silently. He frowned, then looked up. "This proves nothing. Only your word. An accursed object from a cursed room." "Liar," someone shouted. "She used magic to kill them," another cried. Fear and anger clouded their hearts, and they refused to hear. Elder Juma raised his hand. "The people have spoken. Lela, for the safety of our village, for the peace of our hearts, we must end this darkness." Lela fell to her knees. "Please. I am innocent. I only did what I thought was right. I only wanted the truth." But the warrior stepped forward, tying her hands with thick rope. They led her to the edge of the village, to a wooden post already prepared. Dry branches and logs were piled at its base. No. Stop. Please. Lela cried, but her voice was drowned by the chanting of the crowd. Her eyes searched the crowd for one kind face. There was none. As the sun began to set, casting the sky in orange and crimson, a warrior lit a torch. Lela looked to the heavens. Father, I kept my promise as long as I could. The torch touched the wood, and flames burst to life, licking at the dry branches, growing taller. Smoke filled the air. Lela's cries turned into coughs and sobs. Then, with her voice hoarse but strong, she shouted to the crowd. You judged in fear, not truth. I curse this village. Just as you condemned me wrongly, may you too one day face judgment you cannot escape. May you feel helpless, as I do now. Her final words hung heavy in the air, carried by the smoke into the sky. The flames roared higher, and the villagers fell silent, watching the fire consume the girl they once loved. As the fire burned, the sky darkened unnaturally. Thunder cracked, and a cold wind swept through Nomesa, scattering ashes across the square. The crowd stood frozen. Some wept, others turned away, unable to watch. When the flames finally died, all that remained was ashes and silence. No songs were sung that night. No drums played. Only the howl of the wind, and the weight of guilt that settled over Nomesa like a heavy blanket. The next morning, the village square was empty. People stayed in their homes, speaking in whispers. Some blamed the elders. Others blamed the mask. But deep down, each person blamed themselves. Children asked where Lela had gone. She went to the sky, mothers replied. But we failed her. And so began the curse of Lela, the girl burned by fear, whose truth was ignored, and whose words would never be forgotten. 1 year passed since the flames took Lela's life. The village of Nomesa seemed the same from the outside, thatched roofs, green fields, and laughing children. But inside every heart, something had changed. The land felt colder. The sunlight weaker. Lela's last words, her curse, lingered in the air like smoke. You judged in fear, not truth. May you face the same helplessness. No one spoke her name aloud, but no one forgot. First, it was the rains. They stopped coming. The river Luma, once full and flowing, dried into a thin stream. Crops withered, and animals grew thin. Farmers stared at the cracked earth with worry. It's just a dry season, they said. But the elders knew better. Elder Juma, now tired and bent with guilt, watched the skies and felt dread. Then came the strangers, traders from a far-off village. They accused Nomesa of stealing sacred items during Chief Mosi's travels. The people protested. We are innocent. But the traders would not listen. They returned home and spread word of Nombesa's dishonor. Soon, no village traded with Nomesa. The market stood empty. We are cursed, someone whispered. Fear crept into every home. Neighbors stopped trusting each other. Old friends avoided one another in the market. The once joyful village became silent, burdened by guilt and hunger. Children asked, why does the river not flow, Mama? Mothers replied, because we turned away from truth. Some blamed the elders for Lela's death. Others blamed Lela herself, calling her spirit vengeful. But the truth remained, the village had judged an innocent girl and now faced the weight of their choice. One evening, as the sun disappeared behind grey clouds, a stranger arrived. He was old and bent, with white hair and eyes like glowing coals. He walked with a carved staff, etched with symbols of old. He called himself Motu, the healer and seer. The villagers gathered around him. You seek answers, Motu said. I have seen the flames that took the girl. I have heard her cries in the wind. You cannot run from your deeds. Elder Juma stepped forward. Can we lift the curse, wise one? Motu looked at the village with sadness. Not unless you face truth, not unless you open what was closed and see what was hidden. Only then will her spirit rest. With heavy hearts, the villagers followed Motu to Lela's old home, now abandoned. Weeds grew through the floors, and dust covered every surface. The air was thick with the smell of decay and regret. They stood before the forbidden room, its iron door rusted, but still locked. Motu turned to Elder Juma. Open it. With trembling hands, Juma took a key from around his neck, Lela's key, which had been recovered from the ashes, and unlocked the door. The hinges groaned as it opened. Inside, the mask lay on its pedestal, now dull and lifeless. Next to it, a journal, bound in leather. Motu stepped forward and picked up the journal. Let the truth be known. The village gathered as Motu read from Lela's journal. I feared the room but trusted my father. When he vanished, I only wanted to find the truth. Nia and Temba asked me to open the door. I was afraid, but I did it. The mask judged us. It took them. I did nothing to harm them. Tears welled up in many eyes. Motu continued. This mask was made by an ancient tribe. It judged the hearts of all who entered. If one's heart was pure, they were safe. If it was filled with greed or fear, it took their voice, their sight, their life. The villagers fell silent. Nia and Temba, were they greedy? Someone whispered. Motu nodded slowly. They sought to steal the mask's power. That is why they vanished. Lela was innocent. Her death was your fear's doing. Cries of sorrow filled the air. Mothers wept. Fathers bowed their heads in shame. Elder Juma fell to his knees. We failed her. We failed ourselves. Motu raised his staff. If you wish to be free of the curse, you must honor her. Speak her name. Tell her story. Let truth shine where lies once ruled. And for the first time in a year, someone said her name aloud. Lela. The village of Nomesa was not the same after Motu's reading of Lela's journal. People walked the dusty paths in silence, heads bowed. Some wept openly. Others spoke in whispers, afraid of the shame that now followed their every step. Elder Juma did not sleep that night. He sat by the sacred fire in the village square, the journal open in his lap, reading Lela's words again and again. I did nothing to harm them. The mask judged their hearts. I only wanted the truth. Her voice, once sweet and full of laughter, now echoed in his mind, a painful reminder of what fear had caused them. At dawn, Motu the healer called the villagers together. In his hands, he held the ancient mask, now lifeless and cold, its red stone eyes dark. This is the object that carried the truth, Motu said. You feared it. You called it cursed. But it was your own hearts that brought misfortune. The crowd listened, silent. Motu turned to the elders. This mask was crafted by the Mona tribe centuries ago. It was never meant to harm, but to judge, to reveal the truth within people. Only those with pure hearts could face it safely. A young boy stepped forward, eyes wide. So, Nia and Temba, they tried to steal it. Motu nodded slowly. Yes. They planned to take it, believing it would give them power, wealth, or magic. The mask saw their greed, and took their lives. Lela tried to stop them. She begged them to leave it alone. And when they vanished, you turned your anger on her. Gasps filled the air. Mothers wept. Fathers hung their heads. Even the warriors, once proud, now felt small under the weight of the truth. The elder's confession. Elder Juma, with the journal in his hand, stepped before the people. We, the elders, failed you. We failed Lela. We let fear blind us. We ignored her voice, her innocence. We chose to burn her, instead of seeking the truth. He dropped to his knees. We ask for forgiveness, from you, from her spirit, from the earth itself. All the elders knelt beside him, their eyes wet with regret. Motu raised his staff. If you wish to heal this village, you must cleanse it. Let the fire that destroyed her now light the path to peace. Tonight, we honor Lela. We speak her name. We sing her songs. Only then will her spirit rest, and the curse lift. As the sun set, the villagers gathered at the spot where Lela was burned. They cleared the ashes, laid fresh flowers, and built a small stone shrine. On it, they carved her name, Lela, daughter of light. Children sang the songs Lela once taught them. Drums beat softly, not with anger, but with sorrow and remembrance. Lanterns lit the night, casting a warm glow over the village for the first time in many moons. As the ritual ended, a gentle rain began to fall. Not heavy. Not fierce. Just enough to wash the earth. The villagers raised their faces to the sky, tears mixing with raindrops. She is with us, someone whispered. And in the quiet, they all felt it, a peace they hadn't known since the fire dot in the weeks that followed. The river began to swell. Seeds sprouted in the fields. The market reopened. Strangers returned, hearing of Nombesa's change of heart. The village thrived, not in riches or power, but in truth and unity. And in the center stood Lela's shrine, always surrounded by fresh flowers, always visited by those who wished to remember the girl who paid the price for fear, and whose truth saved them all. Years passed, and the story of Lela, the girl of light and truth, became a tale told around every fire in Nomesa. Children knew her name before they could walk. Elders spoke of her with tears and pride, reminding the village of the lesson burned into their hearts. Fear clouds the mind. Only truth can clear the way. But the world beyond Nomesa had not forgotten either. One bright morning, messengers from the northern kingdom arrived, riding fast horses and wearing heavy cloaks. They carried a royal order, accusing Nomesa of stealing a sacred golden crown during Chief Mosi's final journey. The villagers were shocked. Elder Juma, now older and slower, spoke firmly. We did no such thing. We are innocent. But the messengers did not care for words. They issued a harsh punishment: no trade, no visitors, no contact with the outside world for 20 years. A barrier of isolation fell upon Nomesa like a prison wall. The villagers were heartbroken. They tried to protest, to explain, but their pleas were ignored. And then, they remembered, this is what we did to Lela, whispered Mama Binta. They don't believe us, just like we didn't believe her, said a young man. A heavy silence settled over the village. They were innocent, but now powerless, cut off, and accused. Just as Lela had been. The curse she spoke of, not one of magic, but of karma and consequence, had returned to them. We must endure, Elder Juma said. And we must remember. As the years dragged on, Nomesa survived through unity. They planted every bit of land, shared every piece of food, and leaned on each other. In their struggle, they taught their children truth, patience, and justice. Every year, on the day of Lela's death, they gathered at her shrine, telling her story. Remember her, they said. Let her voice guide yours. After nearly 2 decades, news arrived. In a distant market, 2 thieves had been caught trying to sell the stolen crown. They were brought before the northern king, who demanded answers. Where did you steal this? One thief confessed. We robbed the chief of Nomesa many years ago. The truth was revealed: Nomesa had been innocent all along. The king lifted the punishment, and messengers rode to Nomesa with apologies and gifts. But the villagers wept, not for joy, but for the memory of Lela, who had once faced the same false judgment. To mark the moment, Nomesa built a stone monument beside Lela's shrine. Children laid flowers there daily. On the stone, they carved words that would live forever. In memory of Lela, the girl we judged in fear. Let her story teach us to seek truth before blame, to listen before we burn, to love before we fear. This tale became a lesson for all. For parents, be cautious of secrets and choices, for they may harm your children in ways you never intended. For workers, follow instructions and respect boundaries. Curiosity is natural, but some paths are dangerous. For communities, do not rush to judgment. Fear can blind you, and in your rush to punish, innocence can be destroyed. And so, Nomesa thrived once more, not through riches or fame, but through wisdom and unity. They learned that fire can destroy, but it can also light the way if used with care. And in every song, prayer, and gathering, they honored Lela, the girl who died in flames, but whose truth saved them all.